Hey everybody, how are you? David DeFranco here from daviddefranco.com/ask. That is your open forum for submitting questions for future videos such as this one. And today's question is a very interesting one with tons of information, so let's just jump right into it. And that comes from Red Robin. Don't sue me. Anyway, Red Robin says, I was wondering what are the differences between domains such as .co, .com, etc., and which domain should I use if there is a difference? Thanks. Red Robin, this is an awesome question because, as you probably know, I love domains. It's kind of like a drug, and I'm sure other fellow website creators out there know exactly what I'm talking about. Sometimes you acquire a little too many domains and you don't end up using all of them. But you know what? Either way, it is a lot of fun, especially when you manage to turn a domain into an actual website. It's just a great feeling. Okay, so I want to start out this topic by explaining the typical domains that we have available, and then we'll briefly talk about special domains. So typical domains usually include .com. That's probably the type of domain name you should always go for, unless you're going for some kind of specialty product slash website. But .com is usually the best one to go with. And then we have .co, .net, which I've never really been a fan of, and .tv, which I believe is based on the island Tuvalu, which I think is slowly sinking. Or maybe they finally fixed that problem because .tv domains for a while were really, really expensive. And that's exactly why I no longer own the creative one .tv. Sorry, I mean, it was kind of sad to let it go, but I asked myself, is it really worth keeping? And I told myself, no. Because, yeah, I talk to myself a lot. So special domains, let's talk about these. I'm not a huge fan of them, but if I had a very niche specific site, then perhaps I'll use one of these sometime in the future. And that includes domains such as .reviews, .guru, .email, and .ninja. Yeah, .ninja. So just imagine going to www.david.ninja. I guess that's kind of cool. But what's really neat is the .reviews domain. I actually think this has a lot of potential, especially if you manage to grab an awesome domain such as iPad reviews or video game reviews. And by reviews, I mean .reviews. Just imagine the potential in a domain name like that. I'm not sure how they rank in search engines, but still, I suppose it's worth trying. Alright, so now let's get into the actual tips portion of this video. How do you choose the best domain name? Well, firstly, you should always choose a domain name that is easily recognizable. daviddefranco.com. It's my name and a very common domain extension, .com. There's really no rocket science behind that. It's my name, .com. That's pretty hard to forget. Gearpop.com. It just rolls off the tongue. It's easy to memorize. Just like adfor5.com. It's ads for $5. So adfor5.com. And honestly, guys, just try to keep it simple. Try to keep your domain names simple, especially if you're considering using a bunch of numbers in your domain. Please don't do that. My next tip is to make notes of keywords that relate to your domain name. This is actually a lot of fun and very frustrating at the same time. Believe me, I spent hours upon hours trying to think of a good domain name. And I'm sure many of you can relate to exactly what I'm talking about right now. Thinking of the perfect domain name is incredibly difficult, especially if it involves making a website about something that's very common, such as technology reviews, some kind of store, because let's face it, there are stores everywhere, and the list goes on and on. The point is, thinking of the perfect domain name can be very frustrating, but the process can be a little easier if you open up a physical notebook or your favorite text editor program or anything like that and list keywords that relate to your domain name. For instance, when I was thinking of gearpop.com, I wrote all the keywords down that I could think of that relate to technology, such as technology, tech, gear, maybe hardware, I'm not sure. But that's another thing, I try to keep my domain names short. Gearpop is only 2 syllables. Ad for 5, 3 syllables. S space summit, 4 syllables. We're getting up there, but I'll explain that in a minute. DeFranco Hosting. Okay, well, that's not exactly short, but it tells you exactly what it is. It's a hosting website managed by me, David DeFranco. And another fun idea is to try to form acronyms out of words. A great example of this is gearpop.com. A lot of people probably don't realize this, but the pop in gearpop actually stands for point of purchase. Because my original plan with gearpop was, it's 1 o'clock, thank you Mr. McIntosh, was for users to go to gearpop.com, look up galleries of people's setups, read blog posts, reviews, all that stuff, and finally, just maybe, purchase something while on the site. Hence where the name Gearpop came from. And finally, when trying to think of a domain name, look up synonyms. Bring up a thesaurus, bring up your dictionary.app in OS X. I swear by that app when I'm thinking of domain names. Seriously guys, it's just an awesome little app. And it's actually that easy. Just try to find words that relate to the words you're doing. Again, such as tech and gear. They're essentially the same thing, but very different words. So just don't think too hard, make notes, and eventually that perfect domain name will pop into your head. Now let's talk about getting creative, because there are some awesome domain extensions out there that could just happen to work into your domain name, such as .co, daviddefran.co, yep, David DeFranco. And I love that domain name. It is my favorite domain name that I have ever purchased. It just happens to work out. Defran.co is my own personal URL shortener. So on Twitter, or my Amazon affiliate links, or Facebook links, anything you see, it usually involves my domain name, DeFranco. Again, defran.co. It's short, it's easy to remember, and it just happens to work out with .co. Now, I understand this may not work out for everybody because sometimes people have domain extensions and names that just don't, kind of cooperate with one another. But if you do happen to have a domain name or your own personal name that works out with a domain name, then I say go for it. This next portion of the video is definitely very important. Avoid using brand names in your domain. A while ago, I owned davidsebay.com. And unfortunately, one day eBay's legal team emailed me with a cease and desist letter, basically threatening me to go to court if I didn't forfeit my domain, davidsebay.com. I didn't really mind it. It didn't freak me out. I was like, you know what? I don't need it. I don't use eBay on a regular basis. And really, who's actually going to use that domain? davidsebay.com. I don't run an eBay store, so it wasn't a huge deal at the time. So eventually, I canceled the domain. I told them, there you go. I canceled it. You happy now? They're happy. Boom. End of story. But now with a domain such as sspacesummit.com, I originally wanted to use Squarespace's name in the domain, such as squarespacesummit.com. But I did email Squarespace just to be safe, and I said, hey, basically I'm creating a Squarespace tutorial site, a resource site, all that good stuff. And I was wondering, can I use Squarespace Summit in my website title, but use sspacesummit.com as my domain? And thankfully, they said yes. They said that I can use the word Squarespace in my website title, but I cannot use the word Squarespace in my actual domain name. And you know what? That was perfectly fine with me. That was my original goal. So sspacesummit.com was eventually born. This next tip is a very important one. Do not limit yourself to one domain name. There is no reason why you cannot map multiple domain names to one website. I mean, there are people who visit my website by going to daviddefranco.com, but there's also people who go to my website by typing in daviddefran.co. Oh, and also fun fact, gearpop.com was originally called gearpops.com because unfortunately gearpop.com wasn't available, but I emailed the original owner and they actually gave it up for me. I was like, oh, thank you. Because usually when you contact people to buy their domain, they want literally thousands of dollars, which I think is just ridiculous. Okay, but to wrap up this video, I do want to give my own website a plug, defrancohosting.com. I've been running this site for at least a couple of years now, and it's actually been quite successful. It's an awesome place to buy cheap domains for literally just dollars. And it includes a one-step WordPress installation. So in other words, if you do not want to mess with FTP, transfers, all that stuff, or any coding, you can install WordPress with a click by going to defrancohosting.com and signing up with one of my WordPress packages. But of course, this is just scratching the surface. DeFranco Hosting offers so much more than just domains and WordPress hosting. So I do encourage you to check it out. And if anything, just sign up for an account and consider it maybe in the future. Because if you do purchase anything from defrancohosting.com, not only is it affordable for you, but it also helps me out as a content creator. And for that, I'm very appreciative. So guys, that is it. Red Robin, thank you so much for the awesome question. I really enjoyed talking about this stuff, and I hope I helped at least one person out there today. So as always, your support is much appreciated, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Peace.